Dear Acharya Pranam, verse 52 says, having realized that the world picture on the screen self is evanescent and essentially non existent, one should ever remain still and blissful in the firm conviction of ever being the sole Brahma self only. This conviction should be maintained even while functioning as an individual in the world of name and form. This matured state of abidance in the self is called Sahaj Nishtha, the natural state. He asks, please enlighten on how to attain Sahaj Nishtha when my day to day work involves extensive use of mind. When I do physical things, it's easy to feel the body and external world, and I am able to feel the sensations of the body. I randomly lose myself, but I am able to come back. But when I'm in office, being an IT professional, I am forced to use mind throughout. Is there any way I can practice I am Brahma self as I use my mind? Thank you. Paulson from Sri Lanka. Paulson has asked that the Gita is telling him to firmly abide in the conviction I am Brahma self. And he says he has to live in the world of name and forms. Hmm? And living there, the mind becomes active and the identification with the body, the thoughts, etc., is strong. So, how does one abide in the conviction I am Brahma self while working as a worldly man, in his case, as an IT professional? When you say you are an IT professional or a Sri Lankan or a father or anything or anybody else, then you mean something objective, Paulson. Then you mean something tangible. Hmm? Then you mean something that is definable. Kindly do not read I am Brahm in the same way as you read I am an IT professional or I am Paulson. I am Brahm is a statement fundamentally different, even though the words, the language may look similar. I am Brahm, I am Paulson. No. When you say I am Brahm, Brahm is that which is outside sensory perception, outside the domain of thought, limitless, formless, not something that you can conceive of. Everything that you can conceive of is just not Brahm. Now tell me, what do you mean when you say you are Brahm? If you are to really say you are Brahm, it cannot be an affirmative statement. It cannot be a positive statement. It has to be a statement in denial, in negation. Brahma means not that which you can think of. So when you say, I am Brahma, what is it that you are really saying? You have to then say, I am not anything that I can think of. And whatever you can label yourself to be, it would always be a thought out something. So saying I am Brahma is not about giving yourself an extra identity. Saying I am Brahm is saying I am not Paulson, I am not a male, I am not alive, I am not dead, I am not X, I am not Y. Whatever I can call myself, I really am not that. That is what is meant by saying I am Brahm self. Are you getting it? Now, look at your question. You are saying in the middle of your day to day involvements, how do you abide in the conviction, I am the Brahma self? The answer is simple. Let the mind be involved in whatever it is doing. Let the hands be involved. Let the body be involved. Let the involvements be there for the involved one. You do not get involved, and that is possible. How is that possible? That is possible when you do not consider any of your involvements big enough to leave a dent, a mark, a scar upon you. You do not just think. See how you think. You think with yourself at the center. Whenever you think of something, you think of that thing with respect to yourself. And that is why whatever you think of either inflates you or demeans you. Does it not? Are you ever separable from your thought? Do you ever just think about the tree or the river or the truck or the house? No, you just don't think about the house. You think about the house with respect to yourself. Now, somebody who should never get involved is unnecessarily getting involved. Thinking is not a problem. But you say that the big house will make me big. Now the big house has been unnecessarily connected to I. Why did you do that? Let the house be big. Let the house be bigger. Let the house be the biggest in the town. Go ahead, do that. If that be needed, do that. But why do you unnecessarily relate yourself to the size of the house? Or let the house be small, or let the house be raised to the ground. The house is demolished. Have you been demolished? But that's how you feel, right? If the house is gone, then I too am gone. That's where you are doing something totally needless. You are connecting two things that are not connectable. You are trying to do the impossible. You are trying to mix water with oil. You will fail. or with great effort, even if you appear like succeeding, your success will be a very pricey success, very costly and full of suffering. Are you getting it? As an IT professional, write the code, but let not the code have a bearing upon you. Let the mind calculate, and you have the intellect. Let it analyze, conceptualize, add, subtract, draw something from the memory, project something into the future. Let all those things happen. You don't get involved. Who is involved? The intellect is involved. Who is involved? The memory is involved. Who is involved? The eyes are involved and the hands are involved. But let there be something, somebody who is never involved. He is forever untouched, relaxed, sleeping, and even as he sleeps, he is watching. Are you getting it? You are not the intellect. That is what is meant by saying, I am Brahman. So let the intellect do whatever it is doing. You don't interfere. And when you don't interfere, it is a very strange thing. The intellect remains healthy. You know what is meant by clear vision? When the vision is clear of you, when you don't interfere with the vision, then the vision is clear. You know what is meant by free thought? When your thoughts are free of you. When you don't interfere in your thoughts, then your thoughts have a great freedom and you think rightly. Why are most people not able to think rightly? Because they interfere in their own thoughts. They load their thoughts with the I. Even if they are thinking of Israel and Palestine, the I is still present. Now, what do you have to do in that matter? You can't think objectively of anything. Your own bias, your own prejudice, and your own insecurity always pokes its nose. And then the thought gets muddled. That is called prejudiced thought. That is called muddled thought, unclear thought, crooked thought. Thought that is loaded with I. When thought is loaded with I, then thought is loaded with something that has an infinite weight. The I is so heavy, you know. The I has infinite weight. Thought cannot bear that, so thought gets exhausted. And that is why you say, I thought so much, I am tired. You are not tired because of thinking. You are tired because your thought was loaded with I. And you are thinking, how can I do better? How can I be taller, higher, bigger? How do I enhance my welfare? Whenever you will think with I at the center, oh, thought has an unnecessary burden. Like a man who has an unbearable load on his head. Then thought walks in a very staggered way. Then the tongue speaks as if it is stammering. Have you seen that? If you load someone too much, can he walk straight? How does he walk? Crisscross, zigzag. And that too only for a while. After that he simply collapses. That's how our mind functions. Can't walk straight, and after a while, depression and psychotic disorders and whatnot. Thought is not a problem. Thought loaded with welfare of the self is a problem. Of your own welfare, remain reasonlessly assured, and then think freely. Think about the world. Think about everything that is a worthy subject of thought. But don't think about your own welfare. Your welfare is beyond thought. Your welfare is always guaranteed. Nothing can ever touch you or harm you. Who are you to worry about yourself? Who are you to take your own welfare in your hands? Your welfare is being taken care of by somebody else. Just have faith. And now think about all the rubbish that you want to. Even if you not think about rubbish, your thought would be pure. What is pure thought? Thought that is pure of unnecessary identification. Paulson can get hurt. You cannot get hurt. So let Paulson worry about his problems. Why do you worry? Paulson was born, Paulson will die. You can be joyful even in the moment of physical death. Why do you worry? Now, is death really a scare if even in the moment of death you are blissful? Tell me, please. Does death scare you or the pain associated with death? If in the moment of death you are still mischievous and are winking, and are playing pranks, is death any more a problem? Tell me. You have heard of those laughing monks, have you not? What did they do? They used to roam from village to village. And their method or their being was to crack jokes at everything. They would never teach anything to anybody. They would just go and play some naughty trick or crack a joke or poke someone and run away. That was their way. So one of them, he caught some disease and he died. He knew that he is diseased and he would be retiring soon. On the day of his death, the other two were sad, and that was quite rare for those monks to be sad. People from several villages, they gathered and they said, see, death is so powerful. These people who are smiling and laughing and playing the fool all their life, they were more jokers than monks. Even they are sad today. So this one who had died, he still had a naughty smile on his face, and nobody knew why the hell is he still smiling. So he was put on the pyre, and the fire was lighted, and crackers started bursting, and rockets started flying. This was what the bugger had done. Just before dying, he had stuffed a lot of crackers in his undergarments. Just a few minutes before dying, he decided to play his last prank. He got a lot of crackers and put them inside his clothes. He said, why should my death be bland? Let there be light and sound and explosions of laughter. And everybody started smiling, then chuckling, and finally all burst out in laughter. Now, is death a problem? Is such a death a problem? For such a man who is mischievous even 2 minutes before his death, think of him. He knows that the breath is going out of his body, and still his mind is busy thinking, what is going to be my next prank? And he must have obtained crackers from somewhere, and he must have taken care to keep it all a secret. And he must have somehow summoned the strength to insert crackers inside his clothes. And he's a dying man. What is the problem then? No problem.